Hello, this is a build guide for the Druid that focuses around the Nature's Fury key passive. This is a passive I think is very cool, but have not seen very many builds that are built around it, so I wanted to see what I could come up with. And this is what I've gotten. I'll go through the skills very quickly. So we have Storm Strike, which gives us a chance to immobilize, and it's also a storm skill, which will be very important later on. It also has the chance to make vulnerable, which is sometimes relevant, especially against bosses. It can be quite good, but most of the time that's not super important. For our core skills, we're taking both Landslide and Lightning Storm. For Landslide, which is our main form of damage in the build, we're taking the Primal Landslide passive. This gives us a Terror Mote every time we immobilize targets, which gives us a guaranteed crit with a bunch of bonus damage. And then Lightning Storm, we're taking another small chance for it to immobilize. For the passives, we're skipping out on Abundance as we have enough spirit generation that we don't really need to generate with Storm Strike very much. And we're just taking Wild Impulses and Heart of the Wild for more spirit and more damage on our core skills. For defensive skills, the only thing we're taking is Earthen Bulwark, which this is just a staple really in every Druid build. This gives us a way to have Unstoppable, get out of jail free, and we're going to be investing into it a little bit with our gear. Companion Tree, we're only taking Nature's Reach for a big damage multiplier against CC targets. And then for our Wrath skills, we're taking Hurricane and Trample. So with Hurricane, one thing it does for us is gives us the slow around it, which is important for capitalizing on damage to crowd control targets. And it also gives us the 20% less damage from all enemies who are hit by it. And thanks to one of the aspects we're using on our gear, this is up very often. Which means we're very often benefiting from this damage reduction. With Trample, we're just taking the 20 spirit. The passes on it don't really matter. We're taking this because we'll be using the Trample Slide legendary aspect, letting it cast a bunch of Landslide for us every time we trample. And then we're taking these lightning passives mostly to get to Electric Shock, which gives all of our lightning damage a chance to immobilize for 3.27 seconds. This is especially powerful when paired with Cataclysm, because Cataclysm has an insanely high lucky hit chance of 88%. So as long as this is hitting things, we're getting a very fair amount of immobilizes from this, feeding more Terror Motes into our landslides for more damage. We'll also be taking all of these passives along with 1 point in Circle of Life so we can get a bit of healing every time we spend Spirit, and obviously the Nature's Fury key passive. A couple of things to note would be that the Resonance gives you a very large multiplier if you rotate between Storm skills and Earth skills, so it's kind of hard to see in regular gameplay, but I try and go back and forth between Storm Strike and Landslide fairly often, just so that you're always trying to benefit Landslide from the Nature's Reach multiplier as much as possible. So that's it for our skills. With our Spirit Boons, we're taking the 10% reduced damage from Elites, and we're taking the 30% crit damage from the Eagle. We're also taking Calamity to extend the duration of our Cataclysm by 25%, because uptime on Cataclysm is very helpful. It's very important. And then Calm Before the Storm, again, more uptime on Cataclysm. And then I'm taking Overload bonded with the Snake. This has felt pretty good to me so far, especially because of the high lucky hit chance of Cataclysm. And it gives a way to proc more immobilizes from our skill tree. I already forgot what that passive is called, Electric Shock. So that just gives us more ways to proc Electric Shock, giving us more Terror Motes and therefore more damage. However, I do think that you could make an argument for dropping this and picking up Scythe Talons, just because it's very reliant on us getting crits to actually deal a meaningful amount of damage. Landslide crits really hard, but its normal hits don't really do a whole lot. So you could make an argument for this, but so far this has felt better to me. More Terror Motes, more crits anyway, without having to rely on crit chance. So for the gear, my favorite thing about this build is that it does not rely on any uniques whatsoever. You can put it together with just legendary aspects, and I can't think of any uniques that would even realistically make it stronger. So this is kind of where it just ends up. Except for maybe a unique ring, which I'm not going to talk about just because it's speculation. So with the helmet, we're using Mending Stone to give us triple the duration of our Earthen Bulwark from 3 to 9 seconds, and also let it replenish while we're doing damage. More uptime on Earthen Bulwark, more uptime on Unstoppable, it's always good. For our chest, we're using the Symbiotic legendary aspect, which is very important. Mine has a terrible roll, and this still resets the cooldowns on my Trample, Hurricane, Earthen Bulwark very often. It does not work for Cataclysm, unfortunately, but between the resets on all three of these, it keeps me unstoppable a fair amount of the time, keeps my Hurricane up almost close to 100% of the time, if not 100% of the time. and lets me trample a lot, which is important because trample is a huge portion of our damage. We're using Aftershock to basically double the damage of Landslide. Every pillar will hit a second time and do some bonus damage on every hit. On the pants, we're taking Disobedience for some more toughness. We hit a lot of things very often with this build, so this stacks extremely quickly. For our boots, we're taking Quicksand for a slow on all of our Earth skills. This plus the Hurricane slow means that pretty much everything we're fighting all the time is always slowed, and we're always benefiting from damage to crowd control targets. For the Amulet, we put Natural Balance on the Amulet. This power is crazy. It's a huge crit damage multiplier on our Earth skills and a pretty big crit chance multiplier on our Storm skills, and both of these effects are pretty much always active between just all of our spells, as long as you're just hammering them out. I mean, and weaving in Storm Strikes and Landslides, like this is always active, giving us a lot of stats. We use Umbral so that every time we're slowing these targets or immobilizing them, we're also gaining a primary resource, we're getting Spirit. Mine is a terrible roll at just 1, and I still have absolutely no Spirit issues. I feel like later on, if the build was more optimized, you could probably drop Umbral entirely and pick up more damage or more survivability or something in this ring slot. But for now, it does feel necessary, but not by a whole lot. With the other ring, we're running Crash Stone for even more crit damage on our Earth skills on crowd-controlled enemies, which again is pretty much everybody at all times. For our weapon, we're using Trampled Earth so that our Trample is now a huge damage button because it gives us a bunch of 50% bonus damage, landslide pillars every time we trample, and because of the cooldown reduction, we're trampling a lot and setting this off a lot. Lastly, with the Paragons, I'm not going to go into them too much in this video, but there is a D4 planner link linked below in the description you can click on to go through these and get a good look at them. I'm pretty confident in this Paragon setup, although I do think the order of them could probably be a little bit better for leveling players getting through it. But even with that, because this doesn't rely on any uniques, you can realistically put this together at like level 50 or 60 and it should work just fine. It's very unique, it's very fun, it's very visually impressive. There's just like landslide pillars and a bunch of lightning strikes, everything just happening all around you all the time while you're in combat. It's super, super cool. I do think this is a bit weaker than the other build I put out, the Great Staff of the Crone, or like the Tornado Werewolf build is just like the best build in the game. I don't think this is competitive with that, or even maybe Pulverize. But it is very, very fun. If you want to build around the Nature's Fury key passive, I think this is a very good choice, and it's something I've been having a lot of fun with. But that's pretty much it. I'm going to leave you with some footage of a Nightmare dungeon that I did with this, clearing, I think, 6 or 7 levels above me, and you can see it's super, super easy. I'm basically one-shotting all of the elites, and it just looks super cool the whole time that I'm doing it. So, thanks for watching. Bye-bye.